I truly believe that there's a part of us that doesn't fully want to admit what we want. And this is what happens for a lot of people. We have this assumption that we actually just don't ask for what we want. And I think this is actually one of the hugest kind of shifts that occurs in manifestation is the moment that you unapologetically declare what you want and desire for your life. And when we look at it this way, there's something that's like happening behind the scenes is really a lot of us aren't willing to admit what we want. And we're not willing to actually say what we want. We're not willing to communicate effectively what we want. And in turn, what we get is the autopilot programming. What we get is staying in the past. What we get is not willing to actually declare a new story, a new path for ourselves. And what happens is a lot of us stay where we are because we haven't actually defined where we desire to go. Hey guys, it's Ashley from theawakenedstate.net, and today I want to talk about desire in relationship to our standards and boundaries. So here's the thing. We all have a particular standard and a boundary that's going on behind the scenes. So if you were to think about it like your hair, you have a certain standard that you will reach until you have to dye your hair because it has just reached that point where you're just like, oh my God, I got to deal with this. I'm almost at that point. But when you think about it in terms of anything in your life, there's a certain standard that you have for your relationships. There's a certain standard that you have for your money. There's a certain standard that you have for your friendships. There's a certain standard that you have with your food and your boundaries around food. There's a certain standard that you have in everything with your life. Now, the thing is a lot of us are not willing to admit to ourselves that we want to raise our standards, that we want to defy our personal boundaries and choose to elevate above our current standards and boundaries we have originally set. Now, the thing is some of these standards and boundaries that we have might not be serving us anymore. They might actually be in a space where we're below our standards. We're working below our boundaries. You know, we're attracting a relationship that's toxic or abusive, or we're in this space where we're really getting into, we're being bad with money, or we're in this space where we're in a negative relationship with money, or we can have a standard where we're bad with our food and we're not giving ourselves healthy food and we're not honoring our health and our body and our fitness and whatever, helps you stay in a good mental and physical shape. We have standards and boundaries for everything, but we don't often look at it like this. And I think this can be like one of those hidden little layers that we have to unravel and uncover, is looking at what is your own standards and boundaries happening and coexisting right now in your life, and where are you ready to raise the bar? Where are you ready to dial up what you're receiving in those areas? Because that is the basis of what manifestation is really rooted in. It's about being willing to ask yourself, what do you truly want? And are you ready to raise those standards? Are you ready to instill those boundaries to a point where I am unavailable for this to continue? I am unavailable for poverty consciousness. I am unavailable for blank. And when we start to look at this from a lens of what are you actually available for? Are you willing to raise those standards, raise those boundaries, or are you willing to settle? Now, when we settle, there is this point where we have an energetic minimum and an energetic maximum in our lives. There's a certain level of belief we have around that standard. There's a certain level of belief we have around that boundary. But we always have the ability to change those things. We always have the ability to make a new choice, a new decision, and create a new momentum the moment that we are willing to declare fully what we actually want. So it's never this conversation of, I have to stay exactly where I am. I am only dominated around my circumstance. I'm only stuck in this place of feeling powerless over my circumstance and I cannot change. It is an illusion. Being stuck is an illusion. If there's anything I've learned this year, is when we feel we're in a plateau, when we feel we are stuck, when we feel we are clouded and uncertain on how we're growing and where we're just falling down this place of feeling confused and lost or stuck in a particular way or stuck in a particular mindset, all of that is an illusion due to a refusal to change. It's an unwillingness to fully let go because your ego desires change. And this is because a lot of us do not define where we decide to go next. That's it. And when you look at it from that space, it makes a lot of sense, because when we are unwilling to admit to ourselves where we desire to go next, how can we go next? We cannot move forward until we are willing to admit to ourselves what we fully want and desire. And a lot of us don't admit that. A lot of us stay in a place of settling, lowering our standards, lowering our boundaries. Instead of dialing up, we dial down. We say, well, it could be this, but instead I'm going to say it's just this. And when we do that and we consistently settle, we are in a space where we are not willing to go to the next level. We're not willing to fully jump through and leap to the other side. We're not willing to be our next level self because the standards and the boundaries are dominating the show. And until you're willing to admit that to yourself, you stay in a plateau. You stay in a place where you are stuck. And in that, it's like a holding space. You have created this space of comfort, familiarity, and really looking at your life from this lens of, well, this is how it's going to be. And for some, that's okay. For some, it's good to be in your comfort zone. But the moment that we desire growth, the moment that we desire change, the moment that we desire a higher elevation of what we want, we are pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone because it's challenging our current paradigm of thought. So until we're willing to admit that to ourselves, we will stay in the plateau and we will stay stuck because that energy needs to be defined. And that really is as simple as it gets. So you have to look at, what are you available for? What are you unavailable for? Are you willing to admit that to yourself? What is your current standard? What is your current boundary? Are you willing to raise the bar on your boundaries? And in that space, are you willing to unapologetically claim what you desire and what you fully want for your life? Because that is really the starting point of defining your standards and your boundaries. So for this week, I want you to feel into that. I want you to feel into, what are you fully unavailable for? And what are you ready to call in and step into? I know there's a full moon coming and this is a total solar eclipse. So this is a perfect energy to fully declare and release what you are fully unavailable for and what you are truly ready to call into your life. Okay, I'll see you guys next week.